We back in the lab, we making some noise, so go turn your decibels up. Black skin, white coat, oh no, who was nice as us? Made Jimison, really told us no limit, so we about to take us up. Went from mixing in the kitchen to the lab, and now I can make this up. Whoa! Be shy, be scientist, be shy, be scientist. We shining a light on the people of color to show them how fly it is. Be shy, be scientist, be shy, be scientist. We back in the lab with white coats on our back, trying to show what time it is. Hey.
And welcome back to the B-Scientist Podcast, a podcast by the Black Science Coalition Institute, or B-SCI. When you hear this noise, that is our in-podcast citation. So please head over to b-sci.org/B-Scientist to see all of our citations for each episode ever. I am geoarchaeologist Jordan Chapman, and as always, we have chemist
Jana Carpenter.
And today we're going to do a couple things. We're going to go through some updates. We're going to talk about some sciencey stuff, of course. And then we're going to kind of finish up by just kind of going on our normal grad school rant. So let's hop into it. First update is that we now, B-SCI that is, have a sponsorship tier. Basically, we have several levels of ways to donate to B-SCI. First is the B-Scientist donation tier, which is from $1 to $100. And each month, your name could potentially show up on one of our 2 episodes of B-Scientist. And then we also have the B-Silver package. That one gives you a free t-shirt, and your name will definitely be mentioned as a B-Silver donor on the B-Scientist podcast during that month of donation. Your name is also featured on b-sci.org. And then there's the B Gold package, which is from $501 to $1,000. Your name will be dropped on the podcast for sure, and you will be named as a B Gold sponsor in the B Scientist magazine when that drops. And of course, another free t-shirt. And Jenna, do you want to do the B Platinum?
Yeah, so for B Platinum, you get everything we just mentioned. However, you'll be able to be featured on the bsci.org website for 1 full year. 1 full year. Think about that. That's a long time.
Yeah. Show off to your friends.
Exactly. You'll also get recognition as a B Platinum donor on the B Scientist podcast and the magazine for 1 full year. Oof. Wow. That's 12 months.
I mean, that sounds amazing.
Know. As well as be named as a B Platinum sponsor on our video content for a full year.
When that comes out.
And get a free B-Side t-shirt, which everyone wants
and
needs.
You definitely need.
And yeah, other benefits can be discussed.
Yes.
So think about that.
Think about it. Why not?
Know, Target, I'm looking at you.
Target. Hey, listen, whoever wants to be a sponsor in the podcast, you know.
Waters Corporation, Agilent, all of that. Fisher Scientific.
Hey, listen, Fisher, listen. This sounds perfect, honestly.
You know? So think about it.
I mean, be scientists, why not, right? Hey.
So, yeah, we would love to give back to our community, and the only way we can do that is with your support. So, all right, now I feel like I'm on an NPR
like an advertisement.
Yeah. I've listened to those way too many times,
right.
So it feels really familiar. But please definitely consider supporting us, and we thank you so much for your support.
Also, we have talked about doing scholarships, and this would potentially go towards helping that happen. So we'll finish off by saying that it's not just to produce content, it's not just to produce and not to support B-SCI, but also potentially giving back to the community in a pretty direct way. So think about it. And we move on to some of our updates from some of the other things we're doing. So this podcast episode will be dropping on Wednesday,
the 16th.
But
yes,
we're telling you that because on June 19th, aka Juneteenth, B-SCI is officially going on a break from that Juneteenth to July 4th, basically. And you won't be getting a podcast, and none of the B-SCI board members or some of our new general members will not be doing anything B-SCI related. So we are looking forward to that because it is summertime and we are mostly all grad students, so we need the break. So this was a good way to break it up and acknowledge a holiday that is supposed to be about Black people just taking a day off, basically. So that's happening. But in between, there are some other things going on with people we consider friends and partners and colleagues. For example, STEM Noir is having their conference workshop from June 24th to the 26th. Jana and Jordan have both been helping out with that. And Dr. Chanel Tolson is part of the organizing committee for that. So there's that. And then also Black and X is having their conference from July 29th through July 3rd. And I will be doing a moderation. I will be moderating a panel during that week or that event. I think Janae is also doing something, and I think Dr. Tolson is also a speaker. So yeah, we'll still be doing some things, but they won't
busy
be
bees.
busy bees. But we won't be busy bee scientists. We won't necessarily be doing anything directly B-SCI related. So that gives us time to work on other stuff like that, and then just take some time off. Yeah, and then as we've been talking about, the magazine is very much under development right now. We are hoping to really start getting to that by Jenna's cat is attacking the box right now. We're very interested in seeing where that goes. But anyway, working on a magazine, that is potentially looking like a date coming out in July, probably in later July. Magazine coming out July. Later July, we will be taking user submissions and things like that. We're still kind of working out the kinks, but it is on the way. And then hopefully sometime this fall, if we can find some funding, we will be dropping science communication videos. And that also reminds me, in August, on August 28th, Give 828 from the Young Black Giving Back Institute will be happening again. If you remember from last year, that was one of our biggest fundraisers, and we will be doing it again. We've already registered, and we're very excited about it because there are other organizations, some of them science organizations, such as SimLink, will be doing their event in fundraising too. So we encourage you to look at some of the other participants, and yeah, we'll be there and we'll be doing fundraisers that day too. So help us out. Again, all that goes towards our different programs and activities. So please check it out. Also, happy Pride Month. We are trying to put together some resources and things like that to put on our social media pages. It's kind of going slow, but we do hope to do that before we take that Juneteenth break. So that, again, happy Pride Month to those who identify as part of the Pride community. And we are going to talk about sciencey stuff now. First things up is the Mars Perseverance rover is going to start doing some of its science missions. We definitely talked about that in the podcast, but for the last few months since it landed on Mars, it has pretty much just been doing some checkups on its systems and things like that. But now we'll be starting some of its direct science missions. The one that is in the news right now is that it'll be doing pretty much a geologic sampling of Mars. Be taking some samples along a specific path, a 1.5 square mile area, and we'll be collecting those samples and basically waiting for a day when someone can come pick them up and analyze them. So that's interesting. Jenna, you also have an article.
So I do have some news from the Waters Corporation that I mentioned earlier. That shout out was not just for funsies. They just released a SARS-CoV-2 research kit for LCMS, which is pretty major just because, as we all know, SARS-CoV-2 is a very rampant pandemic, still raging very presently. So no one keep your guard down because it's still very present. But if you do have an LCMS or know anything about liquid chromatography mass spec, then you know that it achieves pretty high sensitivity. You can get lots of features analyzed. And the main way that COVID is detected when it's done through PCR is usually by identifying certain peptides. And so this kit will help you to identify really key features or peptides that are associated with SARS-CoV-2. It's got lots of things in it, some reference standards, an LC column, and I think that's pretty major.
Nice. We also have news about NASA sending 2 spacecrafts to Venus somewhere in the near future. There is the Da Vinci, and I'm going to pronounce the second one wrong, but bear with me. I think it's pronounced Veritas spacecraft. They will have 2 different functions. Veritas will be scanning Venus for evidence of geologic activity, where Da Vinci will be scanning the atmosphere to establish how the planet potentially formed. So I don't think they have a date for when those spacecrafts are going to be launched and when their mission's going to start. But that is something that will be happening in the near future for NASA. So NASA's kind of busy right now, and we love NASA, so go NASA. And that's our sciencey news. We don't have that much. We've been busy.
Yeah. As you might imagine, grad school is very demanding in more ways than one. And, people keep saying, oh, it's the summertime, you get to relax and wind down. I have not known rest or peace Since I was born, okay?
Since she was born.
But no, seriously, grad school is no joke, and there is no break until you give yourself one. So
That is very true, yeah.
I think it's super important before I start ragging on grad school itself is to make sure you're checking in with yourself and making sure that you're making mental health a priority in line with research. So
If you hear any noise in the background of this episode, it is Moon. I just
Yeah.
want to put that out there.
my cat Moon would like to make her debut.
Yeah.
And
It's not, she's a recurring character at this point.
yeah, she likes to make an entrance.
Yeah. For science is all. What
it's
it
all
is.
for
Yeah.
science.
This is us observing. It's like Schrodinger's cat. Is what it is.
Yes, except we are being observed by her.
I guess so.
My brain just exploded.
Right.
Okay. But okay, she's taking a break to eat now, so I guess we can.
I think we're good for right now. We'll see.
Just for now.
But yeah, grad school is a beast. I don't know if we talked about this on the last episode, but like, you're working in the lab still, basically.
Yes. Yeah. So now that classes are over, because I'm fully funded by my advisor, I work 40 hours a week, purely dedicated to research. And hopefully by the end of this summer, I'll have some research to publish.
Nice.
Hard to say, though. I feel like each day is a battle.
Yes.
So what are you up to these days?
A couple things. I'm also trying to do some research. For example, I am at the University of Georgia's archaeology lab, or have been at certain points this summer, to collect charcoal samples, or not collect, but like, so there have been archaeological excavations on some of the sites that I'll be visiting for my dissertation. Some of those places have charcoal samples, and my goal is to figure out which charcoal samples could be sampled for radiocarbon dating at the University of Georgia's Center for Applied Isotope Studies.
I love that place,
Yeah.
man.
Miss that place.
Those are the good days.
Shout out to CIS. But yeah, that's one thing I'm doing. The other major thing I'm doing this summer is just reading for comprehensive exams in the fall, potentially late August, early September. I hope it's no later than mid-September, because technically I was supposed to do comps, which is the short name for that, in sometime in the spring, or even potentially I could have did it last fall, but with that thing called the Pandorama happening, I was like, I don't know if this is the best time for it.
Pizza was in retrograde, and when that happened, I saw in Cosmo. Was that it? Yeah, they said that you can't when it's in retrograde, you just have to ride through it, and so, hey, yeah. I am.
Oh my god!
I am very good at all of the astrology.
It sounds like you are.
Yep.
Why is it pizza in retrograde?
I was like, I like pizza, and also there's retrograde things. And it started with a P, and so I did it.
Yeah,
I have no regrets. I said what I said.
You did. You very much did. I appreciate it.
But
pizza
what I'm
is in
saying
retrograde.
is, what I mean to say is, time is not real.
No.
In the grand scheme of things. And I think you'll do fine.
Yep.
And
I'm not crying because of comps. I'm definitely crying because of Jana. That's what's
I also
happening right
am
now.
cutting onions right now.
Yeah.
I like to multitask, and so
Yeah, she's cutting onions for those pizzas. She's talking about.
Yeah. A fun side effect of grad school is you just say really random things.
Yeah, for sure.
And none of it really makes sense.
It's because you're slightly crazy after grad school. Just in the middle. You start grad school just crazy. Moon is really going on in another box over here. This is a great podcast.
This is great. This is kind of like a great representation of how things are going.
Yeah, honestly.
So
it's all
fine.
the cats. It's all the Schrodinger's cats. It's either in one spot or we just don't know where it's at.
Yeah.
Basically.
You really you'll never know.
Nope.
Until you know.
Until you observe.
Until you don't know.
Yeah, until you don't.
Until you know.
But yeah, grad school is just, I mean, yeah, it's just a lot. There's no, it's very much a balancing act. Even in the summertime, it's like no break, I guess.
Yeah. Grad school. It's just mostly failures, and then every now and then someone's like, "Oh, good job," and you're like, "Really?
Yeah,
Wow, thank you."
yeah. Praise is something. I mean, it happens in grad school, but it's definitely, I don't know. It's you are praised for the work you do. It just doesn't always feel like it happens enough, and it doesn't feel like the work that you do equals the amount of praise you get, I guess.
Right. Because it's so self-driven, I feel
Yeah.
like, that it's hard to know, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Am I actually making a difference in my
Right.
research and for the greater good? I'll never know. But then someone will be like, "You're doing something for the greater good." And I'm like, "Okay, great.
Sure.
This is good to hear. This is good news."
It's good news.
So,
I mean, yeah. We are young career science. We have, I think, one thing that I've honestly been thinking about a lot lately is staying or leaving academia after being done with a PhD.
yes.
Because on the one hand, academia has its benefits. You get to do research. You get to potentially teach. But academia can be a bit toxic. It could be a bit it's strenuous. It's very much it's a lot of pressure sometimes to continuously do research and continuously come up with new ideas, which is a lot. I mean, that's not how most other jobs work. So it becomes a bit of a struggle. And it's like you were just saying, it's very self driven. You got to be self motivated, and all of the I was listening to a podcast recently. I think it was a TED Talk podcast, and they were talking about procrastination, and all of the things they talked about for procrastination are exactly why grad school is so tough. Because
Yeah.
one thing was like, if you like new and innovative work makes procrastination more likely,
Oh,
that's grad school.
oh no.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Not always having like a set direction and like specific tasks to do leads people to procrastinate more.
Uh-huh.
And
Sounds familiar.
sounds familiar, right? Yeah. If it's just like every one of those things that like could be procrastinated on is like what grad school is, and it makes it really really tough sometimes.
I think what's really frustrating is that you can have a game plan in mind and you're like, okay, this is my end goal. And yeah, let's just start there. And it's like, no, you do have to work your way through the journey. Like it truly is a marathon and not a sprint.
Yeah.
And I'm a sprinter. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I don't know how to think in the moment. I'm always thinking long term, and so it can be really difficult to plan out experiments because it's you don't really learn how to do that in undergrad, how to
Yeah.
perform your own experiments to this end goal. You're always kind of coddled in a way. Okay, this is your research project. This is what you're gonna do. I'm gonna watch you the whole time. Nothing will go wrong. And now it's like things will go wrong to start, and then you got to figure out what you want to do, and good luck, basically.
Right. I mean, yeah, they don't prepare you. I was about to say STEM, but I want to take a big like swing at it and say they don't prepare you in any undergrad career, on any undergrad major for that undergrad's comparable, master's or PhD track. And on the one hand, I get it because it's some of it's like some of us, not everyone who starts off in undergrad is going to go to grad school. Some of them are just going to get jobs in whatever industry that makes sense. But then some of us do, and it doesn't necessarily prepare you for grad school. It's a different way of being and thinking and trying to do things. It's very different, and there's no great preparation for grad school rather than just going to grad school.
And I think what I'm also learning is that grad school is not your life.
Yeah, it's not your life.
It's just an aspect that is a part of your life, that is a part of your journey as a person. But your life exists outside of grad school. whether you believe it or not.
Yeah, and you got to kind of make it that way too, because if you don't, then you will be wrapped up into it too much. It becomes too real. It becomes too close to your actual life, and you define it by that. Like if you mess up in the lab one day, then it's like, oh, I didn't just mess up in the lab. I messed up at life. And it's not necessarily like no one, like honestly, and that's another thing about grad school. Like it's a very, like we get a lot of knowledge on a very small topic that most people are only ever really going to care a little bit about. So it becomes that too.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like a lot of the times I think I know what I'm doing, and then I'm like, no, I don't actually. And it's hard for me to ask for help just in general, but especially in grad school, because I feel like there's this expectation of you to kind of know what you're doing, but there's not. Sometimes I feel like that's just like a self-inflicted thing.
Yeah.
But sometimes you are expected to know what you're doing. And that's such a thin line, I feel like.
It is a thin line.
And so trying to balance that, but also in general, just asking for help can be really difficult if you're someone who is very independent, especially when it comes to research. So that's been pretty difficult to come to terms with and figure out.
Yeah. Yeah, the grad school, it's different for everybody. You know, it's like, because there are so many different research topics going on, there's as many different research topics as there are experiences in grad school, basically. So everyone's a little bit different, even if they're in the same department. Like I know my research is very different from, in the way I framed this research is very different from people who are working on other things. It's like I do geochemistry sometimes. Like there are people who don't really care about that, but it's still archaeology, which is really weird sometimes. Like so sometimes we're talking past each other, and I'm sure that happens in other fields too. And it's very different.
Yeah, I feel like I have FOMO a lot when I talk to other people in my department, because I'm like, well, I should be learning that too. And oh, well, maybe I should know this too. And it's like, well, I want to be a well-rounded scientist,
Right.
you know, but half the battle is just learning this one niche thing at the same time. So it gets a little difficult to, you know, pick and choose your battles. What do you think, Moon?
Yeah. I can hear her just like she's just purring in my ear. Actually,
Yeah.
it's fine though. Moon's stressing out with us is what she's doing.
Yeah, she's trying to heal me with her purring powers. And it's working.
Nice.
It is working.
Yeah, but I like what you said a little bit a while ago. Like you do have to find those places to you have to give yourself a break in grad school. And like you said two things actually. It's like giving yourself a break and then like not letting grad school be your life. And I've definitely been a culprit of both of those things. Not giving myself a break and just being like, especially during the pandemic, it's like, oh, well, I'm home. I got to do something.
Gotta be productive.
I got to be productive. I had it like at the very beginning of the pandemic, I had like a schedule and I was like, oh, like at like 12 o'clock, that's lunch. But like, we got to be done eating by 12:30 so we can start. And that didn't work out. And I knew it wasn't working, but it was still like, oh, but now I feel bad because I'm like, oh man, I'm not sticking to the schedule. And it's like, because it's
schedule?
not, but it's not a great schedule, and it just wasn't. I wasn't going to be productive anyway, so it's just that. And then like you start off undergrad, it's like you dedicate a good amount of like, I hate to say it this way, but you dedicate a lot of youth to school.
Yeah.
Like you like never mind like the primary and secondary school, but like once you get to higher education, if you go from undergrad to grad school, sometimes that's not a big gap. Like I took 2 years off. I think you might have took like a year, maybe
2 years.
2 years off too. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And it's like that 2 year period was like dedicated to preparing yourself for grad school in some ways.
Yeah.
So it's like that maybe 4 year period. Maybe sometimes maybe it's a little less for some people. For most people, it's about 4, but some people do 5. Like so, I know I probably clocked out around 5.
Yeah,
and
I
then,
know someone who waited 12 years and now they're about to go to grad school.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, there's that gap. There's that you dedicate that much time to this. And it's easy to let yourself get wrapped up in pursuing that and pursuing those degrees. And, I at the end of it, I always think the education is worth it, but you do need to find those places where you just go, okay, but like I'm gonna take a step back, I'm gonna live my life, and I'm gonna smell some flowers, basically.
Yeah. And you brought up a good point about dedicating part of our youth, because I was just talking to someone about this the other day that, I miss out on a lot of opportunities to see friends and stuff because I have to be in lab. I can't just take off a full week in the summertime to
Right.
go do whatever I want because, I have to set aside vacation days,
Yeah.
essentially, which is a lot like any other job, and I understand that, but it's like, I don't just go home and, all right, my thinking brain for grad school is turned off.
Right.
Rarely does that happen. Rarely.
Yeah.
So I feel like I've missed out on just being a person that's not just surrounded in STEM.
Yeah. I mean,
Not
because
that that's a bad thing.
no, I
but
don't think STEM. It's not. I don't think it's STEM necessarily. Like, because there are jobs like if you wanted to work in a lab elsewhere, you could, and they paid you good money. You could work in that lab. Maybe it's a 9 to 5. At 5 o'clock, you go home. You don't need to think about. You don't need to think about what's happening tomorrow. You don't need to. You don't need to do research at home. You don't need to take it home with you. And I think that
Right.
grad school encourages you to take all that stuff home with you. And most jobs don't encourage you to take work home with you. Like, you just don't have to. You can go home and relax. You can go home and go. You can go home. You can go to the bar after work. But grad school is very much like, oh well, like if you could do that, but you have to be very. I know some people who have figured out a schedule where they could do stuff like that, where maybe they study for like an hour, maybe two, and then for the rest of the night they're chilling. But most of us not. We don't have that, discipline to, make that work. So most of us are like, oh well, here's another paper I gotta write over the weekend, and it's like, well, it's the weekend for you, and it doesn't always turn out to that.
Right. Yeah. And, my advisor all the time is working over the weekend. And I think that's another, like, kind of negative aspect of academia is that you almost have to, especially if you want to progress in your career, is to bring home work,
Yep.
first of all, and then also create constantly.
Yeah,
That's so much pressure. And there's also so much bureaucracy in academia.
yeah. Oh my gosh, so much.
I I could go on for days, but just getting like simple applications downloaded onto a school desktop could take days.
Yeah,
And for why? Why? Red tape is
yeah.
why.
Because the school you gotta pay for the license. If the school doesn't have the license, then it's just all of these weird things. That's like, wait, why is it this hard to like you have more money than me, certain university.
Like, I just paid you. What did you
Yeah.
do with that money?
Where's my student fee going, school?
Like, you told me I have food at home, and I didn't even ask you, school. Like, who gave you the right to tell me that?
Right. It's just
So-
things like that. Yeah. Look, and again, I think one thing that I don't maybe this is something that's just anthropology, but like I don't, and I've been thinking about this a lot. It's like this encouragement to go into academia and after you're done in grad school, which I don't disagree that that's a career path people should take, but I think this idea that is like it's that grad school gears you to be in academia. It's like that's where I'm like maybe it shouldn't be. Maybe it should be to gear you towards to be an expert in the field, not an expert in the academic part of it. Because I do feel like that's a lot of what grad school does sometimes.
Yeah, because it feels like a competition.
Yeah.
It feels like everyone's in competition with each other and who's doing the best. And
Mm-hmm.
whoever does the best gets an award at the end of the year.
Right.
Maybe they get a bonus. Maybe they get more funding for their grant. And it's like, why don't people just get funding because they deserve it?
Yeah, why don't
Because
we?
people need funding.
Why don't all grad students just get guaranteed funding? Like that's one that needs to be the thing. Like because we don't get paid that. I need to be we need to be grad students do not get paid that much. Even if you're on like an NSF fellowship, for example. You get paid a good amount, but it's still not the median average for most Americans. I can guarantee you it's not it's good. It's higher than some other grad students, and that way you can't complain. I can't complain. But at the same time, it's not enough. It's still you're still basically just over minimum wage. And it's even that is just like a strain because it's like I can imagine like we're in Georgia, right? But if you we're not and not even just Georgia, we're in Athens. But like if you were in a bigger city, Atlanta, and you're at a different university or something like that, like it's the cost of living, like the school has to take that into account. They don't always do. And then you get students who have to work other jobs. It's just like that should not be the thing that happens in grad
It
school.
should not be normal at
No.
all. Someone who has to work 2, 3 jobs just to pay for student loans or student fees. Hashtag I hate student fees.
Hey, student fees.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
You already want people to overwork themselves to create something that's notable and not even give them a wage that they are worth.
Right.
You know?
And it's also it's the how much grad students get versus how much the advisors and like the upper
man.
administrators, like it's just like again, grad students are like at best a little bit over minimum wage. The advisors and upper administrators, they're above the median. Some of them most of them are if you got tenure, you're making over 6 figures.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
easily,
yeah.
easily. Even if you aren't tenure in certain departments,
Yeah.
you're over 6 figures.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or like within 6 figures, not over. But yeah, do yourself a favor. That is public domain.
Yeah, go
They
look
are
that
paid
up.
by the federal government. That is all free to look at. It is my favorite game to play to remind me of my place in society.
You're right.
Yeah, it's pretty eye opening.
It's eye opening. It's it's not fair.
Yeah, and a certain institution, won't name any names.
No name names.
Definitely, their student fees that graduate students pay, that fee is to pay other grad students. Or at least that is partial of the fee, or a majority of the fee is just to pay other grad students assistantships. So we're essentially paying ourselves. Sorry, what?
How is that a thing?
How is that even real?
It's a messed up system.
It's pretty messed up. There's just so much wrong with how this system is created, and it also excludes people. You know, with all of this, you have to have financial stability to be able to even consider dropping everything to go to grad school for however many years of your life. If you're a caregiver, that's even harder.
Could not imagine.
It's so much harder.
Shout out to y'all.
Exactly. And so I just feel like the least these institutions could do is to pay people over a living wage.
It's just a reasonable amount of money.
Exactly.
I was on Twitter recently and I saw, and this is going back to your comment about that it's exclusive. Like undergrad's already a barrier. Like that's the first one. That's like, do you have $40,000 a year to come to this university? No, sorry, you can't come. So that's the first barrier. Then if you can figure out how to work fast food to get you there, then you get in a lot of debt, and then it's like, oh, come to grad school, and you still don't get it. Like if you took the money that you made in grad school and then tried to pay off your student loans, and while you're in grad school, you'd still be in debt by the time you finish grad school.
Exactly.
Like, that's how many barriers there are. That's how much so that means we're not even getting a return on an investment until we're finished grad school. Like,
and even after, I mean, even postdocs don't get paid a lot.
they don't. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Again, that's why I've really been thinking about lately. Like, I do like the idea of doing research and teaching, but the idea of doing it in academia is like very rough now. Like you have transferable skills, especially you as a chemist. You can definitely find somewhere that is not a university and work and make good money. Like I'm glad I have made that. I'm glad I did the geology part. I'm glad I pursued geology along with the anthropology degree, because I think the geology part and the chemistry in that, like I'm not nowhere near as good as chemist as Jenna, but like I could work in a chemistry lab and be like, okay, I could do this, or not even a chemistry lab. I could work for some agency and be like, oh, I kind of know what's going on. Just maybe you have to train me a little bit, but it won't be that much, and I could do okay. But
And
there's
that's
not.
the thing too, isn't it? You know, all of these labels that we put on ourselves. Okay, sure, you have a doctorate, sure, you have a master's. At the end of the day, whatever job you go to, you're still gonna have to get training.
Yeah, right.
You
Yeah,
know what I
yeah.
mean? And so I just feel like there's so much exclusion all around. Just it's exclusion all the way
All the way
down.
down. It's like when you see those job applications and they're like, you need 3 years of experience, and it's like, I'm 16. How? How did that? How?
Wow.
Where you're telling and this is retail
And just to get paid like
minimum wage.
minimum wage.
Yeah,
Barely.
barely. Like
And for what?
for what? What is why? It just what are you really asking for is the question at that point. Like if you're asking for 3 years, if you're saying you just want me to be like if the subtext of that is we want you to be professional, then just say be professional.
The favorite thing to say is, "Oh, well, we couldn't hire you because you're overqualified." I'm sorry, what?
How am I
I
overqualified?
thought you wanted my qualifications. Oh, well, we want someone that we can teach. So I just went to
Am I
school for
unteachable?
10,000 years for nothing.
Right.
It's frustrating, and I I just want there to be some change. And I think salary is an easy one to fix off the front end.
I think that's off the front end.
Also, standardized testing is stupid.
Standardized testing fucking sucks. I don't think I should drop the F bomb on the podcast. I hate
We've
the
cursed on this
GRE
podcast
sucks.
before.
GRE sucks. SATs, everything sucks.
I'm not good at standardized testing.
No.
I don't know many people that are. And if you are good at standardized testing, good for you.
You psychopath, but good for
Exactly, right? Like, you want a cookie? Like,
Yeah.
shit. I'm just, sorry.
you.
Anyway.
I mean, it's also because we're both black, and standardized testing, has been shown to exclude people of color. So that's part of it too.
Exactly. I did not do well on the GRE.
Nope.
And I think it's solely because I did not take linear algebra in high school.
They don't even ask you. They didn't ask those type of questions. They didn't ask calculus questions. They asked like trigonometry, and then not even.
Trigonometry,
They weren't
right.
even really asking trigonometry questions. It's just like fucking with you questions, and that's what made me mad about the GRE.
Yeah. To this day, I mean, I could probably BS my way into telling you what an area of a triangle is, but what am I going to do with that? What do you want me to do with that?
It's the way they ask. It'd be like, I forget. It wouldn't be even like the area of a triangle. It'd be like, what's the area of the triangle inside of a circle? And then they would be like, they would not.
Subtract the...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't even be like, they would like try to, and then you can't assume that it's to scale. And that's the thing that would always get me. It's like
why don't you just draw it to scale?
draw it to scale. It's not to scale. You had to make this question through. It was, how is it not to scale? That would make me mad.
Exactly.
There's just stuff like that. I took the GRE a couple times. Like the very first time, I think I just walked in there and put C for everything and left because I was taking 20 credits that semester. So I was like, I'm not doing this today. So
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Taking 20 credits is a lot
Yeah.
on top of trying to study for the GRE.
That wasn't a good time. I always hear people say, you gotta get. I agree to it, and then I don't agree to it. Like I agree that you can make change happen within the system. Like I really do, but I don't think. The thing is that you have to be willing to like buck against the system if that's what you're gonna do. You have to be willing to be someone who's like, I'm not doing this type of thing, and you can't keep encouraging it by doing the things that are making people's lives miserable. Like you can't keep, if you're going to do that, you got to be the one that's like, I'm standing up for this. So
Especially when that system was built specifically to exclude people of color. So when you just got a seat at the table, but the table is still majority white,
yeah,
you can't solve all the problems in one day without people already at the table making those changes because
Right.
they know it's the right thing to do. And I'm really tired of being told to be the representative of my entire community. You know what I mean? Like, just put people who you want to see make changes in those positions and stop trying to paint it in some other way and say, oh, we're making change. See, we hired one black person.
Yeah, thanks.
We did it.
That's
We solved racism.
That's not.
I don't know
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
No,
but
it makes it's sad how much sense that does make. It's just
I
crazy part.
just can't.
I have a friend who said this recently. He's another grad student in anthropology, and I'm gonna try to paraphrase what he said, or I'm gonna try to remember exactly how he said it. He said something like, "Don't call me resilient anymore. Just treat me nice." And it was just like,
Yes, treat me
just
nice.
treat me nice. Like just because like I got the most resilient student award at Penn State in a multicultural resource center when I was graduating, and I 100% appreciated that because I did go through a lot to get through Penn State. Like I'm sure I've talked about that story on the podcast. It was very tough, and I'm not going to explain it because I'll give the brief rundown, which is I took a second for me to get to Penn State, and then I had to save up money once I got into Penn State to actually start Penn State. It was a journey, but it'd be way easier if college was free. It'd be way easier if it was just like, here's money to go to grad school. If those things become way easier, if it's be way easier, if it's like, hey, you know what? Education is the same for everybody at a certain level. Like, it's just like, why in high school are we all so different already? It's like,
Education
you can't keep
should
doing that.
not be a privilege.
No, it's not supposed to. It's supposed to be if everyone has to get a high school diploma or a GED, then it should be the same education for. It should not be this great inequality. Like I forget where I saw the stat, but it's like as a student in a public school in most cities is like there's a smaller dollar amount than like a student at a private school in a suburb, and it's like that is not fair. It does not make sense.
I mean, it all just goes back to the fact that it's all classism.
Yeah.
You can say whatever you want, but telling me that someone with a certain degree and living in a certain area, going to a certain school, living within certain lines, making a certain amount of money, coming from wealth, these are all classist ideologies that we are living.
Yeah.
Not to go too much into like society or whatever. It's just,
it's a lot.
it's a lot.
It's a lot to have to deal with as a grad student, to have to do that all the time. They should also just give us free mental health and therapy, honestly. Just why is that, can we just get free stuff? Like why? Because why is that the hard question to ask?
Why
Like,
do I have to do a survey to get a free t-shirt? I'm tired of these surveys. Stop emailing me.
Stop emailing me. Certain universities, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's just very frustrating. I don't know. Grad school is a beast. So what are some of the things you're thinking about? I know you just got finished your first year.
Indeed.
You're still kind of going through your first summer. How are you feeling about going into summer? And how are you feeling about going to the fall?
I'm cautiously optimistic. I
Okay.
love that phrase. I love
Cautiously
using
optimistic.
it. I use it in emails all the time. I hope this email
That's
finds
a professional,
you well.
yeah.
In this pandemic, I'm cautiously optimistic about future plans,
Uh-huh.
but I'm also just kind of overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Still, I think. Yeah, I mean, a 5-year program it feels pretty daunting to look at the front of it.
Yeah, for sure.
So I am kind of feeling the force of all 5 of those years just weighing on my chest all the time. But I think it's going to go okay. I don't like to give up very easily. It just annoys me to give up on myself.
Yeah, I get that.
And so I don't see that happening. But that doesn't say I'm not going to try. But no, I think it'll go okay if I just take more time for myself.
Yeah.
And not let it consume me, because I'm pretty good at letting things consume me.
Same.
But yeah, what about you? What are you thinking going into your?
I'm definitely looking at the finish line. So once I take comps and hopefully I pass comps, then so that's when, so for the people who don't know, when you hear about PhD students and PhD candidates, that's that process. Comps is the process. Comps is when, if you pass comps, you become a candidate. Once I become a candidate, I plan on sprinting, like you were saying earlier.
Yeah.
I plan on just like, hope like COVID is still going to be out there and it's still going to be something I need to consider because I haven't got out to the field and to do research. But my hope is that in the fall that we will be able to do those things and that I can finally go out there and get the soil samples that I need, bring them back to the lab, get the do and learn how to do the analysis on them, learn how to interpret that data, and then full sprint towards getting done because I do want to just go live a little bit and not have to come home and be like, oh, let me read 5 papers today. Because comps is not the first time you have to read 5 papers in a day. It's like the 500th time. Like, it's just like, I kind of just want to go and just be done and just work on other stuff. Like, if it's going to be academia, cool. But I'm definitely going to try to figure out a way to not make it shitty. And then yeah, like B-SCI's cool. Like, what if there's other stuff to do? Like, there's other stuff to do. First, there is other stuff to do. Like, I want to live and feel like I done the grad school part and just actually feel like I can do what I want to do and not feel like I have to bring work home every other day.
Yeah, I think more than school, even having communities like B-SCI, have kind of opened my eyes to science communication, science policy. These are things I never thought about in undergrad or graduate school, to be honest with you, until I kind of started talking to Jordan and everyone else in B-SCI as being, avenues that I can explore
Right.
with my degree.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, I never really thought of that seriously until recently. And yeah, that you are someone else outside of grad school, and you don't have to go to grad school to be a scientist or undergrad for that matter. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just again, there's like a linear path, and like there's the perceived linear path to get to that PhD, but it's not linear. It's blurry and curved, and people, it's just you gotta live like that's where the life is, in the blur and the curve. Like, go do that stuff too, like. And that's why it makes me upset that like most grad programs are like trying to push you to do academia. Like, science policy is very important. It is the thing that helps like those politicians that you get mad at make decisions. There are not enough scientists in their ears going, "That's fucking stupid." There's not enough people in science communication going, "This is how white males for the last couple centuries have been explaining how science is done. This is how science is actually done in reality, and this is how we have incorporated Black and Indigenous people's knowledge into the conversation of science." Like, you can't keep presenting it this way and then just going like, "Oh, it's like," don't get me wrong, everyone loves Bill Nye, but like there are plenty of other science communicators who aren't Bill Nye, and like they are making big waves sometimes and doing it in interesting ways. And like, if you can look at them and look at how they are just regular people, then it becomes way easier to see yourself as someone who can do that stuff.
Yeah, and you don't have to separate your love of science from your passion to be a part of your community. The two can go hand in hand. After we talked to Dr. Deborah Mukaz, that really opened my eyes as well, because you can bridge a gap between those two ideas, and they aren't so far off.
Right.
And so,
Yeah, I don't know. We went on another rant.
yeah, it was bound to happen.
Yeah.
It's difficult being in grad school, and you just gotta find your community and just be along for the ride.
Yeah, speaking of community, B-SCI we've been trying to incorporate more general members into B-SCI. So please, we'll put the link into our Google form for you to be put on our listserv, basically. That's pretty much what the B-side membership is right now. It's a listserv that you become a part of. As we grow and get better and produce more content, then we will hopefully be able to provide more benefits and stuff to being part of B-side. But right now, that's kind of all we got. And we do hope that you fill that out, because that allows you to become part of our, the way B-side works is that we have our board members, and our board members sit as chairs on our committees. We have the Science Communication Committee. We have the Science Policy Committee, Finance Committee. There's a Recruitment Membership Committee, and there's always room to make more. So those are ways you can become part of B-side and be involved in B-side's future, because we are an institute. And that institute part means trying to build something that lasts, that can stand up to some of the other societal pressures that have kept Black and underrepresented communities from not being scientists. So that institute part is really important. So that's one way you can become a part of it. So it's also just something to consider.
Definitely let us know what your thoughts are on our content, and if you have any suggestions or corrections, because I certainly make mistakes.
Oh yeah, me too. 100%.
All day, every day. And we just want to thank you for your support, your continued support, and hopefully we have encouraged you up to this point and going forward to be a scientist.
Right. So with that said, catch you guys later. Be Scientist is a podcast by the Black Science Coalition and Institute, or B-SCI, a 501c3 nonprofit. Be Scientist is hosted by both Jenna Carpenter, chemist and B-SCI's Research and Development Officer, and Jordan Chapman, geoarchaeologist and B-SCI's president. Music is produced by Delaralo, and lyrics are by Ed Gunner. Special thanks to Michael Mike Cast and Marshall and the Plaza Abbey Studios. If you would like to donate to B-SCI, visit our official website, bsci.org. That's b-sci.org. Your donation supports Be Scientist and B-SCI's other projects. We couldn't do it without you. So please tune in next time, and always be scientists.